The Xbox Series consoles are selling better than any Xbox in the previous generations. We got some leaks for Grand Theft Auto 6. We potentially now have a release date for Hogwarts Legacy, and PlayStation Plus adds a bunch of games. All right, guys, before we jump into this, if you're new here, as I see a lot of you are, if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that subscribe button. 2022 fiscal year is now complete for Xbox and Microsoft, and they have given us the numbers for the Q4 of 2022. And there are some good, there are some bad. Overall, Xbox seems to be down, but that doesn't tell the whole story. So over on the Xbox side, it says here hardware revenue fell 11% alongside a 6% dip in Xbox content and service revenues. And they're attributing this to lower engagement hours and monetization, which is really showing the fact that the industry is moving to that games as a service model, trying to get people into their games as long as possible, as when they see their revenues decline, they see their numbers drop, it's because of the fact that people aren't as engaged as they were previously in the previous quarter with whatever game they were playing for the amount of hours that they were playing it. Now, in terms of overall gaming revenue, Microsoft has declined 7% year over year. And Microsoft says this: the decline you're seeing in Xbox hardware is partly a reflection of the fact we had that launch about 2 years ago. So with the supply constraints that we had seen over the last couple of years, it has kind of extended out that period for consoles. We're still seeing strong demand, but coming off those highs that we saw in the last couple of years with the launch. And honestly, that to me just makes a ton of sense with the supply constraints, with the chip shortages. The actual launch period for the Xbox Series X and the PS5 is a lot longer than we've seen previously in other generations, because there are still people out there that have been trying to get one of these consoles and have not been able to. And for them, they're still thinking about these consoles as the brand new launch consoles that came out in 2020, just because they haven't been able to get their hands on them. So the overall period where people are rushing out and jumping on them right when they come up for sale has definitely been extended. I don't even know if that period is over yet, because there still is a shortage. It is easier to get these consoles now. You see them popping up a lot more, and I think that's going to continue to be the case as we move forward. But the reasoning as to why the hardware is falling does make sense. The hardware sales do fall after the big hype of the launch of a new console, and that's generally where they come in with some sort of mid-generation refresh, either a slimmer console or a more powerful one, to kind of revitalize the market. And I don't see them coming out with a more powerful one, but hey, maybe next year, 2023 or 2024, there may be slimmer versions of the Xbox and the PS5. Now, despite that quarterly hardware revenue decline, Satya Nadella says that Microsoft has been the market leader in North America for the last 3 quarters in a row amongst the next-gen consoles, and we have been seeing that where Xbox has been outselling the PS5. That is slowly starting to kind of change. The PS5, I believe, recently has outsold Xbox in those weekly sales charts, but the competition between PlayStation and Xbox this generation is so close. They're very close in the amount of consoles sold. And then you have the whole ecosystem thing where Xbox has a big lead with stuff like Xbox Game Pass. Now, going forward into Q1 2023, Microsoft does see gaming revenue and Xbox content and services still both declining again next quarter. Now, in terms of the actual cloud, Xbox Cloud Gaming, you would assume that more people have jumped into it, because the last number they revealed was that 10 million people had used Xbox Cloud Gaming. And then after that, there's Fortnite going on there, the free to play. You don't have to have an account or anything like that. And they say here over 4 million people have streamed Fortnite to date, including over 1 million who were new to our ecosystem. So you could assume that that 10 million number has increased. And they don't also give you any more numbers for Xbox Game Pass. They revealed that the service grew to 25 million in January, and again, you can assume that that number has grown. I wish they would give us those numbers for Game Pass subscribers. It would be cool to see kind of the breakdown in regions too, to see how well it's doing in Japan with people playing cloud gaming through Game Pass on their phones and stuff like that. I would love to see those numbers one day, but they are kind of always quiet, and they just release the numbers when it's really hit a milestone. So we may not see another announcement for the service until, hey, maybe like 40 million or 50 million, something like that. Now, when we break down these numbers, I found this good Twitter post here by Dom's Playing, and it implies here that even though gaming revenue declined 7% in the quarter ending in June, it implies that $3.45 billion in quarterly sales from Xbox is the second best Q4 ever. And even though content and services have gone down and have declined, you can see here in their presentation, they say that it has been partially offset by the growth in Xbox Game Pass subscribers. And this is a narrative that is pretty much consistent that we've seen over the last few quarterly reports, where even if stuff was to decline in terms of their revenues and in terms of the content and services, Game Pass subscribers, people signing up to that service, helps offset that, which is another reason why subscription is the way that the industry is moving. They can see it as the thing that is growing, where in other areas of video games, revenues are declining. And then finally, all of these numbers equate to this being the highest fiscal year in sales ever for Xbox. You take a look here at this chart, and you can see from Q1 to Q4, it is the best year ever in Xbox, and I can see that continuing to grow because they've done a great job this generation, releasing a very good console that people want, great services that people want. And then when you start to think about all of their first party content starting to come out, when they get rolling, releasing a few games a year, 3 to 4 games a year, with things like Starfield and Redfall coming out next year, the subscription services are going to grow, people getting into the platform is going to grow, and you're going to see Xbox just continue to be a huge force in video games. All right, finally got some news here on Grand Theft Auto 6, probably going to be the biggest game ever, like in terms of the hype for it, the amount of people that pick it up and play it, sales, all of that type of stuff. We see how big Grand Theft Auto 5 is with their Grand Theft Auto Online, and even just the regular game, how much money that game rakes in. They've released it literally on every platform. It was part of, if you remember, one of the big announcements for the PlayStation 5 event way back when they were announcing the PS5 as a game that was coming over with that next gen. And they just recently actually put out the next generation update, I believe, back in March, which actually is pretty cool. But now we have some information here on Grand Theft Auto 6, and they say here that they had the controversy about 4 years ago, and they have worked hard to make Rockstar a kinder, gentler company. But with all of these changes, employees aren't sure if they're able to produce the chart-topping caliber of a game that Rockstar has been known for. Whenever Rockstar releases a game, you know that this game is going to be up there on the charts. It's going to be some of the highest quality we've ever seen. There's so many high expectations for Rockstar that it can be tough sometimes to meet those expectations every single time. The last one with Red Dead Redemption 2, I would say for the majority of people, they met those expectations with the quality of that title. In Grand Theft Auto 6, the pressure on this title is even way higher than a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, just because of how popular it is and how prominent of a game it is within the video game industry. Now, we also have some information about what's going to be within Grand Theft Auto 6. So apparently there's going to be a female protagonist who will be alongside another protagonist, I'm assuming a male protagonist, as the woman will be Latina and will be part of a leading character in a story influenced by the bank robbers Bonnie and Clyde, which, I mean, that sounds pretty cool. I'm excited to see what they develop with this. They are going to be placing this game in a fictionalized Miami, and it's going to be a massive game, they say here, as they are calling for designs for the inclusion of territories modeled after large swaths of North and South America, and it's going to be bigger than any Grand Theft Auto to date. And of course, they're going to continue to update it and provide content over time for the game itself. Now, with all of this development, with how big of a game Grand Theft Auto 6 seemingly is going to be, it's been in development since 2014, and there is an expectation here that it will come out between April 2023 and March 2024, which is their fiscal year. But employees are not too sure that that is going to happen, because it says here, although there are loose schedules in place, people interviewed for this article said they didn't know of any firm release date and that they expect the game to be at least 2 years away. And earlier this year, a group of designers quit Rockstar's Edinburgh office, telling colleagues they were sick of the lack of progress, which is something I feel like we are hearing a lot across the gaming industry, just from some of the stories that have come out, particularly about some of the Xbox game studios where employees, they aren't seeing enough progress, and then eventually you have to have the leaders come in there, put their foot down, and get this game moving, pick on the creative direction that the game wants to go, which then sometimes leads to articles coming out saying there's some sort of toxic workplace within a lot of these development studios. So there's always that balancing between leadership leading the game and then leaving people to have all of their creative autonomy, and then you have people actually leaving offices because there is a lack of progress. So it's a very interesting thing to look at when you see a lot of the reports and articles coming out about a lot of these game development studios and which way they are kind of going. There's definitely is a balance that needs to be struck here, and I'm sure some of the best studios out there know how to do that. So Grand Theft Auto 6, I don't have any thoughts that this game isn't going to be good, like some of the stuff is saying in here that they are unsure if they're going to be able to produce that chart-topping caliber game. I'd assume with the amount of money they're still making with Grand Theft Auto 5, they're going to continue milking that until they're ready to release Grand Theft Auto 6 and make sure that it is that game that everybody expects. All right, jumping over here to end things off, there was this announcement via PlayStation blog that 8 Yakuza games are coming to PlayStation Plus starting in 2022, starting this month. And the 8 games, you can see them here: Yakuza 0 all the way to Yakuza 6. But what's interesting about this is that they are releasing from Essential all the way up to Premium, depending on what game it is. So Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is the newest game, is being released into all 3 of the subscription services. That's one of the essential releases of the month, that with Tony Hawk and Little Nightmares. And then the rest of the Yakuza games are releasing into either PlayStation Extra and PlayStation Premium, or only into PlayStation Premium. So this is kind of how PlayStation is, what they're doing, what their plan is for their subscription services, releasing games and then splitting them up between the 3 tiers of services. And I'm guessing they're doing this for one of 2 reasons. One, either there is the game that you want to play and it's only in Premium, so you're going to sign up for Premium, or if they release a series like this, they are going to release like they're doing down here, starting with Yakuza 0, going from Yakuza Kiwami and Yakuza Kiwami 2 into PlayStation Extra as well as Premium. And then if you enjoy the series and you want to continue to play through them, you're going to have to upgrade to Premium to get the rest of the Yakuza titles. Now, Yakuza has been a game that's been prominent within Xbox Game Pass, and we are really seeing PlayStation essentially take the same games that were in Game Pass and try to get them into PlayStation Plus and draw people into the service that way. It will be very interesting to see going forward how the entirety of the service shapes up, how they're going to divvy up their games between Extra and Premium. But I would have assumed that all of these games would have also been within the Extra tier, because the Premium tier is really just giving you the backwards compatibility, the PS3 and all that type of stuff. That's what you're paying extra for. But they're now taking away games I would say should be in the Extra tier and then only putting them within Premium. But either way, competition is great. I mean, I want to see both of these subscription services continue to blossom, because it means that we as consumers are going to get more value if we subscribe to PlayStation Plus or to Xbox Game Pass. So throughout the rest of 2022 going into 2023, we'll probably see a lot of new stuff coming over to PlayStation Plus, or games that were in Game Pass aren't in Game Pass anymore, and maybe some that were never in Xbox Game Pass at all. And jumping over here to Hogwarts Legacy now, this is a huge release if it comes out in 2022. When they first showed off the big deep dive gameplay reveal of the game, I think a lot of people were taken by surprise as to how good the game looked, how big and expansive the world seemed. But we didn't get an official release date for Hogwarts Legacy, and I feel like over the last few months after we saw that announcement, people have kind of forgotten how big this game is going to be, and if it comes out in 2022, that's going to be huge. And now we may have a release date for this, as Amazon UK customers have gotten an update on the art of making Hogwarts Legacy pre-orders, and the date has been moved from the placeholder of December 31st, 2022 to December 6th, 2022, which lands on a Tuesday. Tuesdays are definitely a big day that games release on, which would indicate that the potential of this game is going to be making its way out in 2022 pretty high. And I hope this happens, because this is a game that was not on my radar until they showed that deep dive gameplay of it. The game looks awesome. I really can't wait to jump in to Hogwarts Legacy, and I think it would be a really nice way to end off 2022 if it does release at the beginning of December. That's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the earnings reports for Xbox and for Microsoft. What do you think about those GTA 6 leaks? Are you looking forward to Hogwarts Legacy? And are you subscribed to PlayStation Plus? What are your thoughts on the service? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here and you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.